Italian government recently declared penalty as much as $100,000 for using foreign language, especially infiltration of English words in official documents of Italian government. This news item created a great deal of sensation. However, hardly any media took the trouble to discuss that this decision is an expression of a refined culture and visionary leadership who is fully aware of the consequence linguistic degeneration leading to degeneration in the quality of human resource, which is the single most important resource of a nation. When a nation lacks linguistic diversity or experiences limitations in its language development, creativity can be stifled, and that language deprivation restricts the range of perspectives and cultural influences available to individuals, resulting in a narrow and homogeneous creative landscape. In turn, that inevitably degrades the quality of human resources of the nation, which is the supreme driving force. Starting from Buddha and Chinese philosopher Confucius, who said, "In a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of." Many political leaderships who have deeply impacted the world's civilization are known to have openly declared the supreme importance of human resources in determining the historical role of a given nation. All-round welfare and prosperity of a nation, therefore, depends on the quality of nation's human resources. Preservation and flourish of this quality is the responsibility of the political leadership. Adam Smith, Mao Zedong, Stalin, Risto Ruiti, Subhas Bose. Let us turn our attention to the conditions of the nations of South Asia and Africa and note the sharp contrast in their leadership. What do we see? Their indigenous languages are delinked from means of livelihood. Their education system has methodically detached indigenous languages from all forms of schooling. Their media complexes have dutifully conditioned the population to adopt the language of colonial masters as symbol of all-round superiority. Everything indigenous has been projected as symbols of underdevelopment. A subtle message being transmitted through so-called education and media is to unscrupulously imitate everything from colonial masters, including physical features and skin color. Discard with contempt everything indigenous. A well-designed plot to chaotically homogenize former colonial nations has led to all but development and prosperity. Is this an accident? Most definitely not. Discarding indigenous languages, literature, history, tradition, and culture is known to impair thought process and creativity, resulting in degradation of the quality of human resources. Absence of linguistic diversity also limits the exploration of new concepts and the development of innovative solutions. Creativity thrives on the richness of language as it provides a vast array of metaphors, word play, and cultural references that inspire imaginative thinking. Therefore, language deprivation hampers a nation's creative potential and inhibits its ability to generate fresh ideas and artistic expressions. It is by no means an accident that 5 billion people of poor and underdeveloped global South, excluding China, Russia, Iran, Korea, and several other small countries, have made no major contribution in the technological development of the world over the last 100 years. Anglo-American West made fierce attempts to infiltrate their languages in China, Russia, and Iran, and take control of their schooling as they have done in South Asia and Africa, with the explicit purpose of crippling their creative forces. But why? Just to eliminate all possibilities of competition by crippling their creative forces. Current war in Ukraine is most definitely linked to the question of preserving Russian language for Russians in Ukraine. It is not just Italy, but whole of Western and Eastern Europe have taken conscious measures to preserve their indigenous languages by ensuring their linkages to the means of livelihood and conditioning their own people through all available media of communication to have respect for everything indigenous, unlike underdeveloped world of the global South. Under the present relationship of production, leadership of the countries of the global South have dutifully marginalized indigenous languages under the flimsy pretexts, like how to select a language of communication amid so many. It is easier to use a so-called neutral language like English or French to maintain communication with the world community. Using the language of colonial masters opens more international avenues. Such excuses are institutionalized and widely used to condition people of grassroots level, all with the direct and indirect blessings and support of Anglo-American West, meaning global North. Compared to the views of Italian political leadership on this issue, such ideas are in sharp contrast, which also explains the difference in the quality of leadership. Countries of the global South, therefore, will remain subservient to the former colonial masters of global North, unless drastic reforms in favor of indigenous schooling is implemented by an enlightened leadership who understands the significance of preserving and respecting indigenous language, literature, history, heritage, and culture. The same leadership must be prepared to mobilize masses to face resistance from global North, who will invariably trigger conflict under the pretext of saving democracy and freedom, but in reality to eliminate competition. Communities become vulnerable to cultural homogenization and collective memory fades away. By neglecting its preservation, people disconnect from their roots and diminish their ability to express themselves fully. The loss of a language extinguishes unique perspective, wisdom, and diverse ways of thinking. Ultimately, the oblivion of a language erodes the richness of human diversity, stifles understanding, and undermines the foundation of a harmonious and inclusive society. Preserving and revitalizing native languages should be a fundamental responsibility of political leadership, fostering cultural diversity and ensuring a richer and more inclusive society. Time is rapidly changing. Anglo-American West and their alliance called G7 is becoming unable to impose their wills on others as readily as they used to, because they are weakened both economically and militarily. On the other hand, a new five-nation consortium called BRICS is emerging on the horizon. 19 more countries have expressed interest in getting involved. If G7 is taking BRICS into account, is because of China and Russia. Remaining countries must realize their main impediment for gaining strength is their weak, corrupt, incompetent, renegade leadership, along with total absence of a disciplined workforce. They must welcome reforms to empower their human resources through indigenous vernacular-based schooling, something which all developed countries have introduced without any resistance. Russia and China also achieved their spectacular all-round success through the drastic reforms of their schooling and faced serious resistance from the West under the pretext of protecting democracy and freedom. Under the wings of Russia and China, BRICS may become a formidable force only if they adopt indigenous vernacular-based schooling. This strength is, of course, both military and economic, where both China and Russia has established their strength. Until the military-industrial complex of USA and NATO is not completely suppressed and so-called rule-based order is decisively rejected, current law of jungle will keep popping up. An important means of weakening the military-industrial complex is to launch and decisively win media warfare in which BRICS needs to take more initiative.
If you like what you see and hear, please subscribe and ring the bell.